Hi you guys, welcome back to my YouTube channel. In today's video, we're going to be making homemade pickles. Pickles are definitely a staple in our home, and so I'm going to walk you through step by step how to make 3 different flavors of pickles in less than 30 minutes. Now, first things first, we're going to go ahead and get our pickles washed, and then we are going to dice them up. And we are going to let them sit in a salt bath for about an hour. So this step is super simple. You just cut them up. This is kind of our prep work. Set them aside for an hour and then we'll come right back to them. Okay, so we just finished washing our cucumbers, and the best type of cucumbers to use for pickles are going to be curvy cucumbers. So I found these ones at Walmart. I don't think I saw them at Whole Foods, but perhaps you guys might have them locally. But you can probably find these at most grocery stores. So they've got the nice ridges around them. They're nice and thick, and I can just tell these are gonna be perfect for our recipe. So let's go ahead and let's get these chopped up, and we will get them soaking in our salt bath. All right, so I am going to do some of these pickle chips and some of them in spears. For one of the varieties, I'm gonna do spears, and then for the other 2, I'm gonna do pickle chips. So you wanna cut them about 3/4 of an inch thick. That'll be perfect so that you don't lose that crunch as they're sitting in the vinegar mixture in your fridge. So about that is gonna be perfect. You could probably do them a little bit thinner, but like I said, to keep that crunch, we're gonna do them about 1/2 inch to 3/4 of an inch thick. So now that we have our pickles all diced up, I'm gonna go ahead and cover them in about 1.5 tablespoons of salt. And I'm just kind of gonna eyeball this. All right. And now you can just go in there with clean hands and just kind of make sure all of them get coated. So this is really gonna add a nice depth of flavor to our pickles. But we aren't going to keep the salt on. We are going to end up rinsing it off after that hour. So we can just set those aside for an hour, and then we will come right back to it. All right, so our cucumbers have been sitting for about an hour, so I'm gonna go ahead and just rinse these off, and then we can go ahead and continue on with these recipes. All right, so pickles are all nice and rinsed. I'm gonna go ahead and set these aside and dice up a couple of mini sweet red peppers and some onion as well for the bread and butter variety that we're gonna be making. also gonna slice a couple of garlic cloves to go in to each jar. So I'll probably do about 6. For the bigger jar, I'm gonna do 4. So let's see. So we're gonna dice up about 8 cloves of garlic. Alright, so we got our extra veggies diced up, and before we start on our brine, I'm gonna go ahead and fill up our jars with our pickles. So I'm gonna go ahead and separate the spears and put them in one of the smaller jars. I think that they should all fit perfectly in there. And with the rest of the pickle chips, I'm just gonna divide them between our other 2 jars. See if they fit. So the salt bath definitely softens them up a little bit, and like I said earlier, it's also gonna add a lot of flavor as well. Okay, so I think that's all of our spears. So those fit pretty nicely. There's a little bit more room for our garlic, so perfect. Okay, so this is gonna be where our bread and butter pickles go. So I'm actually gonna take a few out, and about halfway I'm gonna go ahead and add in these red sweet peppers. See if we can push them down a little bit, not too much, but just a little bit, just to make some room. All right, so we'll add all of those in there. And we're also gonna add most of our onion. We'll see what we can fit. We'll add about that much onion and top the rest off with a few more pickles. We wanna leave like about a ½ an inch from the top. So I think that'll be perfect for that one. So that'll be our bread and butter pickles. We'll add the rest of our onion in with I mean, you can't go wrong with onion, honestly, in either of these recipes. So this is going to be our bread and butter. These are going to be our dill pickle chips, our garlicky dill, and then this one here is going to be just like a spicy sweet variety. So they're all going to be delicious. Okay. Add the rest of our pickles in here. May not be able to fit quite all of them, but that's okay. We can just snack on the rest. So yeah, we got a few left over. You do want to, it's pretty vital to leave a little bit of room at the top just for the liquid. So we'll just add that guy in there. And yeah, that looks pretty good. Because we also have to top it with our garlic. So just top a bit of garlic into each one. The bigger jar, I'm going to put the most in. Put a little bit in. With our bread and butter. I don't want to put too much in there because I don't want the garlic to overpower that one. So I'm mainly just going to do the garlic in these two. But it's up to you. Either way, it's going to be delicious. All right, so let's go ahead and get started on our brines. All right, so I'm gonna be adding the brine ingredients to my kettle here. I'm just gonna turn it on, let's see. I put it on 4. And I'm gonna start with my sugar. So I'm using coconut sugar, but you guys can feel free to use really whatever sugar you have on hand. So you can use plain white sugar. I'm gonna do 1/4 of a cup of coconut sugar. Ooh, that was good. Actually just gonna add it off the heat first. So I wanted to do the sugar first before I pour my liquids because I'm gonna be using the same measuring cup. So next I'm gonna do 1/2 cup of raw honey. And like I said, you guys can use really whatever sugar you have on hand. I wanted this to be a bit healthier and just have a bit more nutrients, so that's why I'm using the raw honey in this recipe. All right, I'm gonna throw that back on. And we are going to do 1 cup of distilled vinegar. Okay, and then we're gonna add 1/2 cup of apple cider vinegar. All right, we are going to do 1½ teaspoons of mustard seed. All right, so I'm just gonna kind of eyeball this. All right, that's about 1½ teaspoons. And then we're gonna do 1/2 teaspoon of celery seed. Maybe a bit more. Okay, so we're gonna bring this to a simmer, and as it's coming to a simmer, I'm just gonna give it a nice whisk to incorporate all the ingredients. So this brine we're gonna be using for the 2 smaller jars, and then I'm gonna do a separate brine for our dill pickle chips. All right, so while that's simmering, I'm gonna go ahead and just kind of add a little bit of red pepper flakes to my spicy sweet pickle variety. I'm gonna add about 1 teaspoon. Now, depending on your heat tolerance or whatever you like, then you can kind of adjust it, but I'm gonna do about that much. I definitely wanna taste the kick in these. I'm gonna add a touch of cayenne, just like a dash, a nice dash. And I'm also gonna add a couple shakes of Tabasco. That was more than a couple, but we like it spicy in this house, so. It's a little close up, looks delicious. bread and butter. All right, so we want this to come just to a boil, and then we want to remove it from the heat. And then we can go ahead and pour this mixture Now, this recipe actually calls for 1.5 cups of sugar, but I wanted to reduce the sugar content a bit. Don't be afraid to taste it. So I just tasted it and felt like it could use a little bit more sugar. So I'm gonna go ahead and add in a fourth a cup more. So either way, that'll still be leaving out 1/4 cup. But definitely don't be afraid to try and adjust the seasonings as necessary. Give that another whisk, and it looks like we've reached our boil, so I'm going to go ahead and turn the heat off. Get that nice and mixed in. I'll give it one more taste just to make sure it's at the desired sweetness. Alright, that's much better. So, throw the lid on. And we are just going to pour this mixture right over our pickles. All right, so I'm going to turn my heat back on to medium. Still got a little bit of that brine left from the other 2 pickle jars that we just filled up. So to this, I'm going to add 1 cup of vinegar. And I'm also going to add 1 cup of water. All right, I'm going to add a bit more sugar to this one. A little less than 1/4 cup. Oops. I'm going to add about 1 tablespoon of salt. One teaspoon of mustard seed. And I have a little left over from the brine, so I'm going to do about 3/4 of a teaspoon. And I'm also going to do 1 teaspoon of black peppercorns. Let's give that a nice whisk. And same with the other mixture, we're going to bring this to a boil and then take it off the heat. Alright, so while that's coming to a boil, I'm going to go ahead and add a few sprigs of fresh dill to my big jar here. Alright, I gave that a fresh rinse, and just go ahead and kind of shimmy it down the sides. Sometimes you got to kind of move it around just so you can stick it down in. Also probably would have been easier if I did this before I put the pickles in there. But hey, we'll make it work. So just kind of shove it down in there. I think I'm going to add a little bit more. Add that on the other side. Alright, perfect. So we added our dill in there. It's about, what, 3 bunches I just added in. And it looks like our mixture is about ready. It looks like it's coming to a boil, so let's take this off the heat And we'll go ahead and add this to our last jar. So we have a little bit of brine left over, but don't worry about it if you have a bit left over. I wasn't sure exactly how much this recipe was gonna make, but what I do want to do is try to scoop out my little black peppercorns in there. So I'm gonna let this cool for a couple minutes and then kind of just go around the edges with a spoon and get the rest of those peppercorns out. All right, so we're gonna go ahead and let these cool on the counter and get to room temperature, and then we can go ahead and throw them in the fridge. Now for optimal flavor, you probably want to wait about 24 hours, but in a few hours you can always check and see if the flavor's good and you can start enjoying them then. But yeah, this was a very quick pickle recipe and we've got 3 different flavors here. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video of a little tutorial. Making pickles is a lot easier than it seems, and like I said, this is going to be a cost-effective way to enjoy pickles, and it's also just so much more delicious and definitely just nice knowing that you made it from scratch.